Your heart races as you stand before a room full of executives, about to give the most important presentation of your career. Your hands tremble, your mouth goes dry, and that familiar wave of panic begins to rise. We've all been there, those moments when staying calm feels impossible, when our emotions threaten to overwhelm us completely. But what if I told you that ancient wisdom, tested across centuries, holds the key to maintaining your composure in even the most challenging situations? The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome discovered powerful techniques for emotional mastery that are surprisingly relevant and effective in today's fast-paced world. Through their timeless teachings, you'll discover how to transform those overwhelming moments into opportunities for growth and self-mastery. Whether you're facing a high-stakes meeting, navigating a personal crisis, or dealing with daily stress, these proven Stoic principles will help you maintain your inner peace when you need it most. The way we react to life's challenges isn't set in stone, it's a pattern we can understand and transform. The ancient Stoics recognized this fundamental truth over 2,000 years ago, and modern science is now confirming what they knew through careful observation and philosophical insight. Think about your last emotional reaction, perhaps frustration during a traffic jam or anxiety before an important meeting. The Stoics understood that these emotions aren't directly caused by the events themselves, but by our judgments about them. They discovered that between every event and our response lies a crucial space, a space where our power to choose resides. When we feel overwhelmed by emotion, our nervous system is simply doing what it evolved to do: prepare us for potential threats. The Stoics didn't deny these natural responses. Instead, they developed practical methods to work with them. Their approach wasn't about suppressing emotions, but about understanding and directing them wisely. Recent neuroscience research has validated this ancient wisdom. Studies show that our ability to pause and reflect actually changes our brain's response to stressful situations. The prefrontal cortex, our rational thinking center, can effectively calm the amygdala, our emotional alarm system, just as the Stoics taught through their practices. The Stoics handed us a profound yet practical framework for emotional intelligence. They understood that our reactions to events are habits that can be examined and reformed. By learning to recognize the difference between what happens to us and our interpretation of those events, we gain the power to respond rather than react. This isn't just philosophical theory, it's a practical approach to living that becomes more relevant with each passing day. As our world grows increasingly complex and demanding, these time-tested techniques offer us a path to genuine emotional stability and inner strength. Picture yourself stuck in a long line at the grocery store. The person ahead is arguing about expired coupons, your ice cream is melting, and you're already running late. Your heart rate rises, your jaw clenches, and frustration builds. But what if this moment wasn't inherently stressful? What if your reaction was simply a choice you hadn't realized you could make? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote in his Meditations, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This profound insight reveals that events themselves are neutral. It's our interpretations that create our emotional experience. Consider a sudden rainstorm. To a farmer during drought, it's a blessing. To a bride planning an outdoor wedding, it's a disaster. The rain itself is neither good nor bad, it simply is. The same principle applies to every situation we encounter in our daily lives. When your colleague criticizes your work, is it really an attack on your worth, or is it simply information you can choose to use or discard? The Stoics teach us that we have the power to pause and examine our automatic interpretations. Take that grocery store line again. Instead of seeing it as a personal affront or a waste of time, we can view it as an opportunity to practice patience, to observe human nature, or simply to take a needed break from our rushing. The situation hasn't changed, but our relationship to it has transformed completely. This isn't mere positive thinking, it's about seeing reality more clearly. As Marcus Aurelius also noted, the universe's change, our life is what our thoughts make it. By recognizing that our perceptions are not reality itself, but interpretations of reality, we gain the freedom to choose different interpretations. Think of your mind as a translator, constantly interpreting the raw data of experience. Just as a translator can choose different words to convey the same meaning, you can choose different ways to interpret the same events. This power of interpretation is your first and most fundamental tool for maintaining composure in any situation. When faced with a challenging situation, our first impulse is often to react immediately. Yet in that split second between event and response lies a universe of possibility. The ancient Stoics understood this crucial gap and developed a powerful technique that modern science has validated: the deliberate pause. Think of this pause as a momentary suspension of time, like pressing a pause button on your emotional response. It's not about suppressing your feelings, but rather creating space to examine them. As Epictetus taught, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics intuited: when we pause before reacting, we activate our prefrontal cortex, the rational part of our brain, rather than letting the emotional amygdala drive our response. This simple act of pausing can reduce stress hormone production and allow for more measured, considered responses. The technique itself is remarkably straightforward. When you feel that first surge of emotion, take a conscious breath. Notice the physical sensations in your body. Are your shoulders tense? Is your breathing shallow? Simply observing these reactions creates distance from them. During this pause, ask yourself 3 key questions: what is actually happening right now? What is under my control in this situation? What would my wisest self do? These questions help separate objective reality from our subjective interpretation of events. Consider implementing what the Stoics called the retrospective pause, a brief moment to imagine how you'll view this situation in a day, a week, or a year. Will this matter then? This temporal perspective often reveals the transient nature of our immediate reactions. The pause and assess technique isn't about achieving perfect calm in every situation. Rather, it's about creating a habit of mindful response instead of automatic reaction. Start with small daily irritations: a traffic delay, a minor disagreement, a spilled drink. These become your training ground for larger challenges. With consistent practice, this pause becomes more natural, more instinctive. You'll find yourself able to maintain composure in increasingly challenging situations, not because you've suppressed your emotions, but because you've learned to engage with them more skillfully. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate emotional responses, but to respond to them with wisdom and clarity. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control the space between stimulus and response. That space is where our power lies. Picture your phone buzzing with yet another urgent work email, a car honking aggressively in traffic, or someone making a cutting remark about your latest project. These external triggers seem designed to test our composure, to push us off balance. But as the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely observed, it's not the events themselves that disturb our peace, it's our response to them. The key to maintaining composure lies in understanding a fundamental Stoic principle: the dichotomy of control. There are things within our power and things beyond it. The weather, other people's opinions, global events, these lie outside our control. Our thoughts, judgments, and responses, these remain firmly within our grasp. Consider your daily commute. Traffic jams, delayed trains, or cancelled flights can trigger intense frustration. But ask yourself, what aspects of this situation can I actually influence? While you can't control the flow of traffic, you can control how you use that time, your interpretation of the delay, and your response to it. The same principle applies to interpersonal conflicts. When someone criticizes your work or questions your decisions, remember that their words and actions belong to them. What belongs to you is your interpretation and response. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, we can choose to view criticism as valuable feedback rather than a personal attack. External triggers often gain power through the stories we tell ourselves about them. A colleague's short email becomes evidence of their disrespect. A stranger's frown transforms into a judgment of our worth. The Stoic approach invites us to strip away these interpretations and see events for what they truly are: neutral occurrences awaiting our assessment. Practice identifying the boundary between what you can and cannot control in each challenging situation. This mental habit serves as a filter, helping you direct your energy toward effective action rather than wasteful resistance. When facing a problem, ask yourself, what aspects of this can I influence? What must I accept? What actions align with my values? Think of your response to external triggers as a muscle that strengthens with deliberate exercise. Start with minor irritations. Practice maintaining equilibrium when someone cuts in line or when technology fails at an inconvenient moment. These small challenges prepare you for larger tests of your composure. Remember, the goal isn't to become immune to external events, but to respond to them with wisdom and purpose. By focusing your attention on what lies within your control, you reclaim your power to choose your response, regardless of the circumstances you face. Imagine standing atop the highest mountain, looking down at your life unfolding below. From this vantage point, the problems that seemed overwhelming begin to shrink. This perspective shift, known to the Stoics as the view from above, is one of our most powerful tools for maintaining composure in challenging times. When we're caught in the heat of a stressful moment, our perspective naturally narrows. That missed deadline, heated argument, or financial setback fills our entire field of vision. But as Marcus Aurelius practiced, we can mentally step back and view our circumstances from a greater distance. Consider your current challenge. Now imagine viewing it from across the room, then from outside the building, from high above your city, from the edge of the continent, and finally from the depths of space. With each step back, notice how the emotional intensity begins to fade. This isn't about dismissing our concerns, but rather about placing them in their proper context. The Stoics also taught us to expand our perspective through time as well as space. Think about your current worry. How significant will this seem in a week, a month, a year, 5 years from now? This temporal distancing helps us avoid becoming overwhelmed by temporary setbacks. Another powerful technique is to imagine yourself as merely one actor in a vast human drama. Your challenging situation is likely one that countless others have faced before and will face again. This understanding doesn't diminish your experience, but rather connects you to the broader human story, providing both perspective and comfort. Practice viewing your circumstances as if you were advising a friend. We often find it easier to maintain emotional distance and offer wise counsel when helping others. This shift in perspective can help you access your own wisdom more readily during personal challenges. Remember that mental distance doesn't mean emotional detachment. Rather, it creates space between the event and our response space in which we can choose our actions rather than simply react. This is the essence of Stoic emotional mastery. When practicing these techniques, start with minor irritations before applying them to more significant challenges. Like any skill, building mental distance requires patience and consistent practice. But with time, you'll find yourself naturally stepping back to gain perspective when difficulties arise. The ancient Stoics understood a profound truth about human nature, that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. This insight led them to develop one of their most powerful practices, premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Rather than letting potential challenges catch us off guard, they taught us to rehearse them in advance. Think of yourself as an actor preparing for a demanding role. Just as they rehearse their lines and movements, we can rehearse our responses to life's challenges. Begin each day by briefly considering what could go wrong, not with anxiety, but with calm preparation. Your presentation might face technical difficulties, your commute might be delayed, or a crucial meeting might become confrontational. Epictetus advised his students to consistently remind themselves of the impermanent nature of everything they cherished. This wasn't to promote pessimism, but to develop emotional resilience. When we mentally prepare for challenges, they lose their power to completely derail us. Consider the practice of a ship's crew regularly conducting safety drills. They don't do this because they expect disaster, but because preparation breeds composure. Similarly, we can mentally rehearse our response to losing a job, facing criticism, or experiencing financial setbacks. The key is to visualize not just the challenge, but your composed response to it. Marcus Aurelius practiced this by reminding himself each morning that he would encounter people who were rude, dishonest, or difficult. By anticipating these challenges, he was rarely caught off balance when they occurred. This mental preparation allowed him to respond with patience rather than react with anger. Another valuable preparatory practice is to regularly remind yourself of your core principles and values. When we're clear about what truly matters to us, we're less likely to be shaken by external events that don't align with these fundamental values. Think of these principles as your anchor in stormy seas. Remember, the goal isn't to become pessimistic or anxious, but rather to develop a realistic and prepared mindset. Like a skilled martial artist who practices defensive moves until they become second nature, we can practice our responses to life's challenges until maintaining composure becomes our default state. Building emotional resilience is like strengthening a muscle. It requires consistent practice and gradual progression. Let's explore practical exercises that combine ancient Stoic wisdom with modern psychological insights to develop your emotional strength. Begin each morning with a simple gratitude practice, but with a Stoic twist. Instead of just listing what you're grateful for, actively contemplate how you would maintain composure if these things were suddenly taken away. This exercise cultivates both appreciation and emotional independence. Throughout your day, practice what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. When facing any situation, pause and ask yourself, what aspects of this can I control, and what aspects are beyond my control? This mental habit helps prevent emotional energy from being wasted on circumstances you cannot influence. Create small, controlled challenges for yourself. Start with minor voluntary discomfort, like taking a cold shower or delaying a meal. These self-imposed challenges serve as training grounds for building emotional fortitude. As Seneca noted, fortune favors the prepared mind. Develop a daily reflection practice. Spend 10 minutes each evening reviewing situations that triggered strong emotions. Don't judge these reactions. Instead, analyze them with curiosity. What beliefs led to these emotional responses? How could you view similar situations differently in the future? When facing difficult emotions, practice the technique of cognitive distancing. Instead of saying, "I am angry," say, "I notice that I'm experiencing anger." This subtle shift in language creates space between you and your emotions, allowing for more measured responses. Incorporate the Stoic practice of negative visualization into your weekly routine. Take time to imagine losing things you value, not to create anxiety, but to strengthen your emotional resilience and deepen your appreciation for what you have. Learn to recognize early warning signs of emotional reactivity in your body. Notice tension in your shoulders, changes in your breathing, or a racing heart. Use these physical signals as reminders to engage your Stoic practices before emotions escalate. Remember that emotional resilience isn't about suppressing feelings, but about responding to them wisely. Like a skilled surfer who learns to ride powerful waves rather than fight them, we can learn to work with our emotions rather than being overwhelmed by them. Practice self-compassion when you fall short of your ideals. The Stoics understood that progress isn't linear. Each setback is an opportunity to strengthen your emotional muscles and refine your practice. Your breath is one of your most powerful tools for maintaining composure, as ancient Stoics understood well. Let's explore how physical practices can anchor your mind in moments of stress and strengthen your emotional control. Begin by becoming aware of your natural breathing pattern. Notice how your breath changes with your emotional state. When stress arises, your breathing typically becomes shallow and rapid. This awareness alone can become your first signal to implement Stoic calm. The practice of intentional breathing connects your physical state with your mental composure. Take a deep breath in through your nose for a count of 4, hold briefly, then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. This extended exhale naturally activates your body's relaxation response. Pay attention to the physical sensations in your body as you breathe. Notice the expansion of your rib cage, the movement of your diaphragm, the feeling of air passing through your nostrils. This focused attention draws your mind away from disturbing thoughts and into the present moment. Progressive muscle relaxation offers another pathway to physical and mental calm. Starting from your toes and moving upward, consciously tense each muscle group for 5 seconds, then release. Notice how this deliberate tension and release mirrors the Stoic practice of accepting and then letting go of what we cannot control. Your posture significantly influences your emotional state. Stand or sit with your spine straight, shoulders relaxed, and chest open. This powerful stance naturally induces feelings of confidence and calm, while simultaneously allowing for deeper, more regulated breathing. Practice walking meditation, paying careful attention to each step. Feel the sensation of your feet making contact with the ground. This simple practice of mindful movement can serve as an anchor during turbulent times, bringing your awareness back to the present moment. Remember that your body and mind are inseparable. Physical tension creates mental stress, and mental stress manifests as physical tension. By addressing one, you naturally influence the other. This understanding allows you to approach emotional mastery from multiple angles. When you feel overwhelmed, place one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen. Feel your breath moving beneath your palms. This simple touch can provide immediate grounding, reminding you to return to your breath and your Stoic principles. The key is to practice these techniques regularly, not just in moments of stress. Like the Stoics taught, preparation and consistent practice are essential for maintaining composure when challenges arise. Make these physical practices part of your daily routine, building a foundation of calm that supports your philosophical principles. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a bustling marketplace in ancient Rome. The chaos surrounds you, yet you remain perfectly still, observing without judgment. This is the essence of Stoic visualization, a powerful technique that has traveled through centuries to help us maintain composure in our modern world. The practice begins with what the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Close your eyes and vividly imagine challenging situations you might face. See yourself in a heated argument, facing a crucial deadline, or receiving unexpected bad news. But don't stop at imagining the challenge. Visualize yourself responding with perfect composure, embodying the Stoic ideals of wisdom and restraint. Consider each potential difficulty as a training ground for your mind. Just as an athlete rehearses their movements before a competition, we can rehearse our responses to life's challenges. See yourself maintaining steady breathing, keeping your voice calm and measured, and responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Create a mental library of challenging scenarios and practice moving through them with grace. When your boss criticizes your work, envision yourself receiving the feedback with genuine openness. When stuck in endless traffic, see yourself using the time for reflection rather than frustration. When faced with a difficult decision, picture yourself carefully weighing options without emotional attachment. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics intuited: mental rehearsal creates neural pathways that support our desired responses. Each time you practice these visualizations, you're essentially programming your brain to respond more effectively under pressure. The gap between stimulus and response grows wider, allowing space for wisdom to enter. Incorporate the view from above exercise, a classical Stoic technique. Imagine floating high above your current situation, seeing it from an increasingly distant perspective. Watch as your challenges shrink in proportion to the vast expanse of space and time. This cosmic perspective naturally dissolves unnecessary anxiety and brings clarity to your responses. Practice these visualizations daily, ideally in a quiet moment at the beginning or end of your day. Start with simple scenarios and gradually work up to more challenging situations. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate emotions, but to respond to them with wisdom and understanding. Let each visualization end with a moment of reflection. See yourself emerging from each challenge stronger, wiser, and more composed. Feel the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you've prepared yourself mentally for whatever may come. The power of these mental rehearsals lies in their regularity. Just as a musician must practice scales daily, we must consistently exercise our mind's ability to remain calm under pressure. Through this practice, composure becomes not just a response to difficulty, but a natural state of being. When crisis strikes, the untrained mind reacts with panic, but the Stoic mind responds with deliberate clarity. Consider how Marcus Aurelius faced the Antonine Plague that devastated Rome. Rather than succumbing to fear, he approached the crisis with methodical calm, implementing practical solutions while maintaining his composure. In moments of crisis, begin by acknowledging what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. Ask yourself, what elements of this situation can I influence, and what must I accept? This simple distinction immediately reduces emotional overwhelm and channels your energy toward effective action. Remember that a crisis is merely an event until we label it as catastrophic. When facing unexpected challenges, pause and remind yourself that this moment, like all moments, is an opportunity to practice virtue. Your response to difficulty reveals your character far more than your response to ease. Take the example of a sudden job loss. Instead of spiraling into anxiety about the future, focus on what you can do right now. Break down the situation into manageable steps: updating your resume, reaching out to your professional network, reviewing your financial resources. Each action becomes a practical expression of Stoic wisdom. Notice how your body responds to crisis situations. Are your shoulders tense? Is your breathing shallow? Use these physical signals as reminders to return to your Stoic training. Take 3 deep breaths, relax your muscles, and approach the situation with renewed clarity. Consider Epictetus's teaching that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. In any crisis, examine your automatic judgments. Are you adding unnecessary suffering through catastrophic thinking? Replace these judgments with objective observations and reasoned responses. Develop what the Stoics called an inner citadel, a mental space of calm rationality that remains steady regardless of external chaos. When crisis looms, retreat briefly to this inner fortress. From this position of mental strength, you can assess the situation clearly and respond with wisdom. Practice the Stoic technique of negative visualization regularly, so when real crises occur, you're mentally prepared. Those who have contemplated difficulty are rarely overwhelmed by it. Your preparedness becomes a source of strength not just for yourself, but for those around you who may be struggling to maintain their composure. Remember that every crisis contains within it the seeds of opportunity. Look for chances to demonstrate courage, practice wisdom, and show leadership through calm, decisive action. Let your response to difficulty inspire others to discover their own inner strength. True emotional stability isn't achieved through quick fixes or momentary techniques. The Stoics understood that lasting equilibrium comes from daily practice and unwavering commitment to their principles. Just as an athlete doesn't become skilled through sporadic training, emotional mastery requires consistent dedication. Begin each day by setting your intentions. As Marcus Aurelius demonstrated in his morning meditations, take time to remind yourself that external events will unfold as they will, but your response remains within your control. This daily renewal of perspective builds an unshakable foundation for emotional stability. Consider emotional equilibrium like tending a garden. You must regularly weed out destructive thought patterns, nurture beneficial habits, and create conditions that support growth. When you catch yourself reacting impulsively, use that awareness as an opportunity to pause, reflect, and choose a more measured response. The key to lasting stability lies in what Epictetus called the discipline of assent, the practice of consciously examining our automatic judgments before accepting them as truth. When you feel an emotional reaction arising, pause and ask, is this impression accurate? Is my response aligned with my values? This consistent questioning gradually reshapes your emotional patterns. Make it a practice to regularly expose yourself to minor discomforts while maintaining your composure. Stand in a long line without becoming irritated. Listen to someone you disagree with without immediately reacting. These small challenges build your capacity to handle larger disruptions with grace. Remember that emotional stability isn't about suppressing feelings, but about developing a wise relationship with them. Notice your emotions, acknowledge them, but don't let them dictate your actions. Like waves on the surface of a deep ocean, let emotional disturbances pass while maintaining your deepest sense of calm. Through consistent practice, these Stoic principles become not just techniques you use, but an integral part of who you are. Your emotional stability becomes natural, requiring less conscious effort, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with increasing wisdom and grace. As we conclude our journey through Stoic wisdom, remember that true composure isn't a destination but a continuous practice. These ancient teachings offer us timeless tools for navigating life's storms with grace and dignity. Each moment presents an opportunity to embody these principles, to choose wisdom over reaction, and to cultivate inner peace regardless of external circumstances. Consider how different your life could be if you approached each challenge not as a threat, but as an opportunity to practice these Stoic virtues. Imagine facing difficult conversations, workplace pressures, or personal setbacks with a calm mind and steady heart. This isn't just an ideal, it's a practical reality that you can achieve through consistent application of what you've learned. Take these teachings forward into your daily life. Start small. Practice the pause before reacting. Question your initial perceptions. Remember that your power lies not in controlling events, but in choosing your response to them. With each mindful choice, you strengthen your emotional resilience and move closer to embodying the timeless wisdom of Stoicism.